The awakening treaty. When Ethan opened his eyes, the light above him was not from any human ceiling. It glowed soft blue and pulsed like a heartbeat. The air carried a strange metallic scent, and the bed beneath him was smooth like glass but warm like skin. He blinked several times, trying to remember where he was, but his mind was foggy. He sat up slowly, his head spinning, his heart beating faster when he saw her, an alien woman standing beside the bed, her armor shining like liquid silver, her eyes a deep violet, her presence strong and calm. She looked at him like a soldier watches a storm, ready for anything. "Human," she said in a voice that sounded like wind through metal. "You are awake." Ethan stared, unsure if he was dreaming. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice rough. "In my ship," she replied. "On neutral ground." She moved closer, her steps silent. "The war has ended." The war? Ethan's heart thumped harder. He remembered the last thing before he blacked out. The blast over the Tryon front. The fall of his shuttle, the sound of alarms, the scream of tearing metal, then darkness. "Who won?" he whispered. She looked at him with a calm expression. "No one," she said. "There is no victory. Only survival." She paused. "And now there is a treaty." Ethan frowned. "A treaty?" She nodded slowly, then handed him a data tablet. "You are part of it." He took the tablet, confused. The screen flickered, showing two symbols, the Terran Alliance crest and the Karth Dominion emblem, bound by a glowing golden line between them. Beneath it were words written in two scripts, one human, one alien. Ethan read them, his eyes widening. "Marriage accord between Commander Ethan Cole of Earth and General Syraxis of the Karth Dominion." He looked up in shock. "This can't be real." Her violet eyes watched him carefully. "It is signed," she said. "Your leaders and mine agreed. Peace must be sealed by blood and bond." Ethan stood from the bed, his breath uneven. "You mean they married us off to stop a war?" "Yes," she answered simply. "Our marriage is the treaty." For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's systems. Ethan felt a mix of disbelief and anger rise inside him. "You can't just decide something like that," he said. "It was decided before you woke," Syraxis replied, her voice calm but firm. "You were chosen for your actions during the war, for saving one of our colonies from destruction." Ethan blinked, remembering the mission months ago, when his fleet intercepted a rogue weapon meant to wipe out a Karth settlement. He had risked his ship to stop it. "That wasn't for you," he said quietly. "It was for the civilians. That is why you were chosen," she said. "You saw more than sides, you saw lives." He looked at her, the silver of her armor reflecting his confused face. "So now what? You expect me to pretend this is normal? That we're just married?" Syraxis's gaze softened slightly. "Pretend if you must," she said, "but the galaxy will not." Outside the viewport, Ethan saw the vast emptiness of space, and two fleets, Terran and Karth, standing in perfect silent formation. Ships that had once faced each other now aligned like twin guardians of fragile peace. He sat back down, running a hand through his hair. "So this is how peace begins," he murmured. "With two strangers forced to share a bed?" She tilted her head, not fully understanding the humor. "In Karth culture, marriage is not merely union," she said. "It is responsibility, honor, and protection." Ethan sighed. "On Earth, it's supposed to be love." "Perhaps both can exist," she said quietly, her tone less commanding now. "If we let them." Their eyes met, his brown, human and uncertain, hers glowing. Alien yet oddly gentle, the space between them felt heavy, not with fear but with something unspoken. For the first time, Ethan noticed the small scar under her right eye, the tiredness behind her strength, and he wondered how many battles she had fought before this one. Maybe she was as lost as he was. The ship trembled slightly, and she turned toward the console. "We are entering Earth's orbit," she said. "The ceremony will be broadcast to both worlds." "Ceremony?" he repeated. "You mean this isn't over?" She looked back at him with a faint smile. "It is only the beginning." Ethan stood, the reality finally sinking in. Outside the window, Earth appeared, blue and calm, a fragile sphere holding billions of lives who would never know that peace had been bought with a marriage. His marriage, he whispered to himself. "I woke up in a war yesterday, and today I'm a husband to an alien general." He shook his head slowly, a strange laugh escaping his lips. "This galaxy really has a sense of humor." Syraxis didn't laugh, but her eyes softened. Perhaps, she said, or perhaps it simply wants to test us. He looked at her again, realizing the truth in her words, and for the first time he didn't feel like fighting it. Maybe this was fate, or maybe it was madness, but whatever it was, it had already begun. And as the two stood side by side, staring at the world below, neither the soldier nor the general knew that their forced union would soon become something the galaxy had never seen before. A love strong enough to reshape the stars. The ceremony of peace. The great hall aboard the orbital station shimmered with light. Banners of both the Terran Alliance and the Karth Dominion hung side by side, their colors merging in a way that felt strange but beautiful. Soldiers, diplomats, and reporters filled the vast chamber. Whispering in dozens of tongues, Ethan stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of a formal Terran uniform that had been modified to include the Karth insignia. His reflection stared back at him, tired eyes, a stiff jaw, and a weight on his chest heavier than his armor ever was. He still couldn't believe it. He was about to marry someone he barely knew. In front of half the galaxy behind him, a soft metallic sound echoed. Syraxis entered the room. Wearing armor unlike any Ethan had ever seen, it wasn't for battle. It was ceremonial. The silver plates shimmered with blue energy threads that pulsed like veins, a symbol of her people's honor and life force. Her long hair flowed freely down her back, and for the first time, Ethan noticed she looked less like a warrior, and more like someone real, someone vulnerable. "You look uncomfortable," she said in her calm, steady tone. He smirked lightly. "You could say that." She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "This ceremony is not only for peace," she said. "It is to show both our worlds that unity is possible." "Unity built on lies," Ethan muttered. "They don't care if we're happy, they just want a symbol." "Symbols build empires," Syraxis replied quietly. "And sometimes they prevent them from falling." Ethan turned to face her. "And what about us?" Her violet eyes softened. "We are the bridge," she said simply. "And bridges must stand even under fire." Before he could reply, a knock echoed and the door slid open. An aide bowed. "It's time." Ethan and Syraxis walked together down the corridor, lined with honor guards from both species, humans in dark blue uniforms and Karth warriors in shimmering armor. For the first time in centuries, they stood side by side, weapons lowered, eyes filled with cautious hope. The hall fell silent when they entered. Cameras floating like silent drones, capturing every movement, every breath. Ethan felt every gaze on him. He had fought in battles, led missions under fire, but nothing felt as heavy as this moment. Syraxis took her place beside him at the altar, a platform made of fused human steel and Karth crystal, glowing with a pulse that matched the rhythm of two beating hearts. A Terran ambassador spoke first, his voice steady. "By the power vested in us by both the Alliance and the Dominion, we unite two warriors who once fought against each other, now bound in peace." Then the Karth priestess, tall and elegant, raised her hand. Two souls from different stars, bound not by conquest, but by choice. Ethan flinched slightly at the word choice. He didn't have one, and yet, as he looked at Syraxis standing beside him, strong, proud, unshaken, he wondered if maybe this was something more than duty. The priestess continued, "Do you, General Syraxis, accept this bond of peace?" Syraxis looked at Ethan, her eyes steady. "I do," she said, her voice echoing softly through the hall. "And do you, Commander Ethan Cole of Earth, accept this bond of peace?" Ethan hesitated for a breath, feeling the eyes of billions, then nodded. "I do," he said quietly. The priestess placed her hands over theirs. Light spread between their palms, forming a thin thread of golden energy, merging into the symbols on their wrists. The mark of treaty and union. When the light faded, the hall erupted in applause, flashes of cameras, cheers, and even tears. But Ethan heard none of it. He only felt the warmth still lingering between their hands. Syraxis turned her head slightly, whispering, "It is done." He looked at her. "Is it?" She didn't answer, just stepped forward to face the crowd. The leader she had always been, Ethan followed her gaze, two species watching, waiting for a sign that this was real. Then something unexpected happened. The Karth soldiers bowed their heads toward the humans, and the human officers saluted in return. A small act, but one that felt enormous. Later, when the ceremony ended, they were escorted to a private balcony overlooking the stars. The crowd's noise fading into silence, Ethan exhaled, leaning on the railing. "I still can't tell if I just ended a war or walked into a lifetime sentence." Syraxis stood beside him, her gaze on the endless void. Perhaps both, she said. But every peace begins with risk, he turned to her, half smiling. Do you always sound like a philosopher? Only when I'm trying to make sense of chaos, she replied calmly. He chuckled, a rare sound since he woke up on her ship. Then you'll fit right in with humans. She glanced at him with a small, almost invisible smile. We will see. A silence fell between them again. But it was different now, softer, not filled with tension, but something quieter, deeper, as if both knew the galaxy was watching them, but for this moment. They were just two souls trying to understand the strange destiny that had tied them together. Below them, the blue glow of Earth reflected off the glass, blending with the distant stars, and Ethan found himself whispering, Maybe peace doesn't always come from victory. Syraxis turned toward him, her voice gentle. Sometimes it comes from surrender. He looked at her, not sure if she meant the war or their hearts. And for the first time since the treaty began, Ethan Cole wasn't sure which one frightened him more. The galaxy might have seen a ceremony of peace, but for Ethan and Syraxis, it was the beginning of something far more unpredictable, the war within their own hearts, the war beneath peace. The days after the ceremony were quieter on the surface, but under the calm tension rippled through every corner of the galaxy. Human and Karth ambassadors smiled for the cameras, but their guards never let their hands stray far from their weapons. Ethan and Syraxis had been assigned private quarters aboard the neutral station Solaris, orbiting between Earth and the Karth homeworld. The quarters were luxurious but felt like a gilded cage. Cameras followed them discreetly, every word they spoke recorded for diplomatic archives. Ethan sat near the wide viewport watching the stars, the cold glow of space reflecting in his eyes. You ever feel like we're just pieces on someone's board? He asked quietly. Syraxis, sitting across the room polishing a ceremonial blade, didn't look up. Every soldier is a piece, she said. The question is, who moves them? He smirked faintly. I thought peace meant no more moves. She glanced at him, her eyes narrowing. Peace is just another kind of war. Human, her words echoed in his mind. And for the first time he understood what she meant, even as the two sides celebrated unity. Whispers of betrayal moved through secret channels. Old generals grumbled in private councils. Spies traded coded messages in the dark corners of the network. That night, as Ethan prepared to rest, a soft tone came from the console beside his bed. He frowned and opened it. The holographic message glowed blue, unreadable symbols scrolling fast before stabilizing into English text. Do not trust her, Commander Cole. The treaty is a cover. The Karth plan to strike. He froze, staring at the words, his chest tightening. No, it can't be, he whispered. The door slid open behind him, and Syraxis entered, still in her armor, her expression unreadable. You're awake, she said, her voice calm. Ethan quickly shut the console, forcing a neutral tone. Yeah. Couldn't sleep. She watched him for a moment, then walked closer. Neither could I, she said softly, sitting down across from him. You are uneasy. He avoided her gaze, just thinking about what happens next. Her eyes lingered on his face for a few seconds longer than usual. Then she said quietly, I know what you saw. Ethan blinked, startled. What? The message, she said, her tone even. I intercepted it. He stared at her, caught between suspicion and disbelief. So, it's true? She shook her head. It's bait, she said. Someone wants you to doubt me, to break the treaty from your side. He frowned. And you're sure? Yes, she replied, her voice steady, because I received the same message and warning me not to trust you. For a long moment, neither spoke, the air between them heavy with silence and suspicion. Finally, Ethan sighed and leaned back. So someone out there wants this peace to fail. There are always those who profit from war, she said, and they will not stop until the old lines are redrawn. Ethan nodded slowly. Then we'll just have to prove them wrong. Her gaze softened slightly. Together? He met her eyes. Yeah, he said. Together. Over the next few days, they began working in secret, using her military access and his alliance codes to trace the source of the messages. They found hints of a network, a shadow alliance of human and Karth extremists, united not by peace but by hate. Late one night, as they pored over data, Ethan glanced at her. You know, for someone who started as my enemy, you're not bad company. She raised an eyebrow. And for someone who can't stop talking, you are tolerable. He laughed quietly. And for the first time she smiled. A small, real smile that reached her eyes, but their moment of calm ended when the alarm blared. Red light filling the room, Syraxis jumped to her feet. "Intrusion detected," she said sharply. Drawing her weapon, Ethan rushed to the console, his fingers flying over the keys. "It's not from outside," he said. "It's inside the station." Before they could react, the door exploded inward. Masked figures in dark armor stormed in, their insignia a blend of human and Karth symbols, the mark of the insurgents. Ethan dove behind the table as plasma bolts scorched the walls. Syraxis moved like lightning, her blade flashing as she cut through the attackers with deadly precision, her movements graceful and ruthless. Ethan fired his sidearm, taking down one then another. The sound of battle filled the room, the hum of weapons, the crash of energy against steel. When the last insurgent fell, silence returned, smoke hanging in the air. Ethan stood breathing hard. "Guess peace doesn't last long in this galaxy," he said. Syraxis sheathed her blade, her expression grim. "No," she said, "but now we know who fears it most." She turned toward him, her eyes meeting his. "They will come again. Stronger," she said. "And when they do, we must stand together, not as human and Karth, but as one." Ethan nodded, wiping the sweat from his brow. "Then let's show them what one means." In that moment, something changed between them. Not just alliance, not just survival, but trust, fragile yet real. And as the stars outside the station glowed cold and distant, both knew that this war beneath peace was only beginning, and neither planned to lose it. The hidden rebellion for 2 days. The station floated in uneasy silence, repairs underway, reports circulating that the attack had been a rogue incident. But Ethan and Syraxis knew better. The signs were too coordinated, the timing too precise in the command chamber. The holographic table shimmered with data streams, showing patterns of intercepted transmissions, troop movements, and coded phrases. Ethan leaned over the projection, his brow furrowed. "They're not random," he said. "Every attack, every signal. It's part of a network." Syraxis crossed her arms, her tone sharp and steady. "A rebellion," she said. Hidden in both our worlds, the realization struck hard, not just as soldiers but as symbols. If this rebellion succeeded, it wouldn't just destroy the peace, it would destroy them. Ethan traced a glowing line on the map, linking 3 red dots. "All these transmissions came from the fringe systems," he said. "Places neither of our governments patrol anymore?" She nodded. "They use the void to hide." Her violet eyes narrowed. "Clever, but not clever enough." Ethan looked at her. "You sound almost impressed." "I respect efficiency," she replied simply. Then added, "Even in enemies." Their eyes met again, and something flickered there. A strange mix of mutual respect and growing trust. A fragile connection forged in the middle of chaos. They worked through the night, side by side, sharing data, stories, and silence. Ethan found himself listening to the quiet rhythm of her voice as she described the Karth philosophy of balance through strength, and she listened as he spoke of Earth's endless hope for unity. By morning they had found what they were looking for. A single name buried deep in encrypted files. Project Ashvale. Ethan frowned. "Never heard of it." Syraxis's expression darkened. "It's old," she said. "A code once used by my people's warlords before the Dominion united." Ethan's stomach twisted. "So this isn't just terrorist, it's someone from your own ranks. Or someone pretending to be," she said. "We must go there." Hours later they boarded a stealth cruiser under the guise of a diplomatic inspection. The stars stretched around them as they left the safety of the neutral zone. During the flight, the silence between them wasn't cold anymore. It was almost comfortable. Ethan looked at her from the cockpit. "You ever think about what happens after all this?" She tilted her head. "After peace?" "Yeah," he said. "After treaties, speeches, symbols, what happens to us?" She turned her gaze toward the stars. "Perhaps we stop being symbols," she said softly, "and start being people again." Ethan smiled faintly. "I'd like that." When they reached the Ashvale sector, what they saw made their hearts drop. Floating in the darkness was a massive shipyard, half hidden behind asteroids, dozens of warships under construction, bearing both Terran and Karth designs. Ethan whispered, "They're building a hybrid fleet." Syraxis's eyes hardened. Designed to destroy both sides and blame the other. Suddenly, alarms flared. Enemy ships appeared on their scanners, dozens of them surrounding their cruiser. "They found us," Ethan said, gripping the controls. Syraxis moved beside him, calm but fierce. Then we show them why peacekeepers can still fight. The next moments blurred into chaos. The small cruiser dodged through asteroid fields, plasma bolts lighting up the dark. Ethan's hands moved fast on the controls, while Syraxis manned the cannons with surgical precision. Every shot she fired found its mark. "Remind me never to make you angry," Ethan muttered under his breath. "Too late," she said with the faintest smirk. They managed to disable one of the pursuers and jumped into hyperspace, the ship shuddering but holding together. When the stars returned to stillness, Ethan slumped in his chair, exhausted. Syraxis turned to him, her voice calm but softer now. "You did well, human." He looked up at her. "You too, General." She gave a slow nod, then said quietly, "Now we know the truth, and they will come for us." Ethan exhaled. "Let them," he said. "We'll take them down together." Syraxis stepped closer, her gaze steady. "Together," she repeated, and for the first time, the word didn't feel like duty, and it felt like promise. Outside, the stars shimmered like witnesses to a secret alliance, and deep within the shadows of the galaxy, Project Ashvale stirred, preparing to strike. The war they had ended was nothing compared to the one waiting in the dark. But Ethan and Syraxis were no longer just a treaty, no longer just symbols. They were something new, something dangerous, a bond the galaxy hadn't planned for. And this time, the war beneath peace would find its match. Project Ashvale. The stealth cruiser drifted in the quiet dark of deep space, its hull scarred, engines barely holding together. Ethan stood near the main console, watching encrypted files flicker across the holographic screen, each one revealing fragments of betrayal. Project Ashvale was no rumor. It was a blueprint for annihilation. Fleets built in secret, carrying weapons from both Terran and Karth design, meant to trigger a new war, one that would erase the fragile peace they had bled to build. Ethan clenched his fists. "They planned this before the treaty," he said, his voice low. "Before us." Syraxis stood beside him, her armor dim in the faint light. "Yes," she said quietly. "They never wanted peace, they wanted control." He turned to her, anger and disbelief in his eyes. "Who are they?" Her expression hardened. "The High Conclave," she said. "A faction within my dominion. Old warlords hiding behind new titles. They believe peace weakens us." Ethan's stomach twisted. "And on our side?" She tapped the console, data stream shifting, revealing human encryption. "Your defense council," she said. "They are working with them." For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. The people he'd fought for, the leaders who'd sent him to war, and all complicit. "They're building a false enemy," he said, "so they can unite both sides under fear." "Fear is the oldest weapon," Syraxis murmured, "and the most effective." Silence stretched between them, heavy and cold until Ethan broke it. "Then we expose them," he said. "Show both worlds the truth." She looked at him, her violet eyes glowing faintly. "If we try, they will hunt us, both sides." He smiled grimly. "Then we better make it worth the chase." They worked for hours, pulling fragments of proof from corrupted archives. Voice recordings, secret orders, encrypted commands. Every discovery felt like peeling back another layer of rot. At last, Syraxis leaned back, exhaustion visible even through her calm composure. "The evidence is enough," she said, "but transmitting it will alert them instantly." Ethan nodded. "We'll need a secure channel." "There's one," she said. "On the old relay station near Vornus 9, abandoned since the First War." He checked the star map. "That's deep in disputed territory." She met his gaze. "Then it's perfect." Hours later, they reached Vornus 9, a lonely moon circling a dead world. The relay station floated above it like a ghost. Dark and forgotten, they docked carefully, stepping into the cold silence of the outpost. Dust drifted in the air, lights flickered weakly. Ethan ran his hand along the console. "Feels like home," he joked softly. Syraxis gave him a faint look. "Your home must be a strange place," he grinned slightly. "You have no idea." They started uploading the data, progress bars crawling slowly, the tension in the air thick. Then a warning tone, sensors flaring red. "They found us," Ethan said, his heart pounding. Syraxis turned sharply toward the viewport. A fleet emerging from hyperspace, not human, not Karth, but a blend of both. Ships forged under Project Ashvale, the rebellion's hidden army. "They've come to erase the proof," she said coldly. "And us with it." Ethan's fingers flew over the controls. "Uploads at 70%. She drew her blade, energy humming. Then we hold until it's done. The first barrage hit. Shaking the station, metal screamed, alarms wailed. Ethan fired up the defense turrets. Beams of plasma streaking through space. Syraxis moved to the outer deck, cutting down drones that breached the hull. Her strikes fast and fierce, her body moving with precision that bordered on grace. Ethan's voice came through her comms. 90% on, come on, come on. Then a blast ripped through the corridor, throwing him to the floor. Smoke filled the air, his screen flashing data transfer complete. He coughed, his vision blurry. Syraxis, it's done. She returned to the command deck, armor scorched. One side cracked, but her eyes burned with fire. Then we leave, she said. But the hangar was gone, destroyed in the assault, and more enemy ships were closing in. Ethan looked at her. We're not making it out, are we? She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for the manual override, sealing the data core. The message has already gone out, she said. Even if they destroy us. The truth is free. Ethan stared at her, realization sinking in. You planned this. She turned toward him, a faint smile on her lips. A general always plans for failure, he laughed weakly. You're impossible. Her smile deepened just a little. And you're predictable. The station trembled again. The hull splitting apart. Lights dimming. Alarms fading into static. Ethan reached out, grabbing her hand. If this is it, he said quietly, I'm glad it's with you, for a heartbeat. Her fierce composure broke. Her fingers tightened around his. Then let it be known, she whispered, that peace was not born of treaties, but of hearts. The explosion tore through the station. A blinding wave of light, and then silence. Far away across the galaxy, the intercepted message spread through every channel, showing images, voices, and plans, the betrayal of two governments, the proof of Project Ashvale, and the final transmission signed by both. Commander Ethan Cole, Terran Alliance, General Syraxis, Karth Dominion, for peace, for truth. And as the galaxy watched in stunned silence, a spark ignited, not of war but of awakening. They had become more than symbols. More than soldiers, they had become legends. The legend reborn. The galaxy trembled in the days that followed the transmission. News feeds across every planet screamed the same headline. Project Ashvale exposed. Recordings of secret councils, voices of powerful leaders, and the final words of two who defied them all. Ethan Cole and General Syraxis, dead or missing, on Earth. Crowds filled the streets, people held candles, their faces reflecting the light of giant screens replaying the broadcast. Children wore badges shaped like intertwined Terran and Karth emblems, for the first time in living memory. Humans and aliens mourned together. The Dominion was no different. Under the crystal skies of Karth Prime, even the coldest generals lowered their flags, whispering names that had once been enemies, now spoken as one. Ethan and Syraxis, the union that defied empires. But deep in the void, far from the noise of the living worlds, something stirred among the wreckage of the destroyed relay station. A faint blue light blinked inside a shattered pod. Steam hissed as a survival capsule cracked open. Ethan gasped for air, coughing, his lungs burning, his vision blurry. Syraxis, he whispered, his voice hoarse. A shadow moved beside him, strong hands pulling him upright. You're alive, her calm voice said. Softer now, almost trembling, he blinked, staring at her through the haze. Syraxis, armor damaged, one side of her face streaked with ash and blood, but her eyes still glowing, still fierce. He laughed weakly. You don't die easy, do you? Neither do you, she said, helping him to his feet. Their escape pod was buried within the husk of the relay station, floating through a graveyard of twisted metal and drifting debris, life support failing but still functioning barely. How did we survive? He asked, looking around the shattered chamber. I sealed the inner bay before the explosion, she said. We were thrown clear during the blast. He gave a low whistle. Remind me to never question your instincts. Her lips curved faintly. Good, she said. Because they will keep you alive again. Ethan checked the controls. Power's low. Comms are fried, he said, but maybe we can send a signal. No, she said sharply. If the transmission went through, both sides are hunting anyone connected to it. We must stay hidden. He looked at her. Realization dawning. You mean we're fugitives? She nodded. To the governments, yes, she said, but to the people. She paused, her gaze distant. We are ghosts of peace. He leaned back, laughing softly. I always wanted to be famous. She glanced at him. Deadpan. You are. Now stop talking and reroute power before we suffocate. Hours passed, the silence of space pressing in. As they worked to stabilize the pod, a faint hum filled the air. Lights flickered back to life. Ethan exhaled in relief. We're not dead yet, Syraxis nodded. Then we begin again, he frowned. Begin what? Her eyes gleamed faintly in the dim light. A war against the ones who betrayed peace, she said. Not for our nations, for the galaxy itself. Ethan looked at her for a long moment, then smiled. You really don't stop fighting, do you? She tilted her head. Neither do you, outside. The debris field stretched endlessly, but somewhere beyond the stars shimmered brighter, as if the universe itself was watching, waiting. Weeks later, reports began surfacing from the outer colonies. Pirate fleets vanishing overnight, smugglers captured by unknown forces, secret outposts found destroyed with surgical precision, and on the ruins, a symbol left behind. 2 interlocked circles glowing faint gold, the mark of peace reborn. Whispers began to spread across the galaxy, spoken in fear and awe. They're alive. The ghosts of the treaty still walk among the stars. Ethan and Syraxis. They're hunting the ones who tried to kill peace. In the shadows of a distant moon, Ethan adjusted the targeting array of their repaired cruiser. Now painted in black and silver, unmarked, unseen. You think they'll believe it's really us? He asked. Syraxis stepped beside him, eyes on the stars. Belief is a weapon, she said softly. Let them believe. He smiled. Then let's make the galaxy believe in peace again. She turned toward him, a rare warmth in her expression. Then we fight not as human and Karth, she said, but as something greater, outside. Their ship turned silently toward the galactic core. Engines igniting. 2 figures side by side in the dim glow. Not lovers of duty anymore, but partners bound by something the galaxy could neither define nor destroy. And as they vanished into the starlight, a new legend was born, might not of war, not of conquest, but of love strong enough to challenge empires and patient enough to rebuild the stars. The galaxy thought they had died, but Ethan and Syraxis had only just begun. The bond that changed the stars. Months passed like quiet storms across the galaxy. Fleets still rebuilt, empires still whispered, and governments still tried to cover their sins, but every whisper carried the same fear. The ghosts are real. From the shadowed edges of forgotten systems, Ethan and Syraxis struck like lightning, hitting hidden outposts, exposing corrupt admirals, freeing enslaved colonies once used for the Ashvale project. Everywhere they went, they left no name, no broadcast. Only a symbol, 2 golden circles crossed by a single line of light. That mark became a story, a warning, a hope. Mothers told their children that the stars were safe again, because the treaty still lived. Soldiers painted the symbol on their armor, saying it brought luck, and spies carried fragments of data marked for the ghosts. Ethan sat in the cockpit one quiet night, staring out into the endless dark. You realize, he said with a grin, we've somehow become galactic outlaws and heroes. Syraxis didn't look up from the console, her tone calm but edged with quiet amusement. Humans are strange, she said. They love you most when you disappear. He laughed softly. And Karth? They fear you most when you return, she said. They shared a glance, a nod of command. Not of duty, but something warmer, quieter, something that no treaty could ever define. Their cruiser, the Aurora's Oath, hovered near a dying red star, the air hum of the engines filling the silence. Syraxis turned from the monitor. We found it, she said. The last Ashvale command node, buried inside the Orion Rift. Ethan whistled. You sure it's not a trap? She met his gaze. It is a trap, she said, but one we will end. Hours later, they arrived. The rift a storm of magnetic fire and glowing debris. In the middle floated an enormous structure, a fortress carved into a hollowed asteroid, its surface bristling with cannons, the heart of everything that had tried to destroy them. Ethan's hands tightened on the controls. You ready? Syraxis rested her hand over his. Always. They moved as one, their ship slicing through defenses, weaving through bursts of plasma and fire, their coordination perfect. She called angles. He flew with instinct. They didn't need orders. They didn't even need words. When they breached the core chamber, they faced what they feared most, not soldiers, but familiar faces, high-ranking officers from both sides, human admirals and Karth lords standing together under the Ashvale banner. One stepped forward, the scarred human admiral. Ethan Cole, he said coldly. You were supposed to die, Ethan smirked. I did. Didn't like it much, the Karth warlord sneered. You think your love changes anything? Empires do not bow to sentiment, Syraxis stepped forward. Her voice sharp as thunder. Empires bow to truth. The room erupted in chaos. Blasters and blades, fire and fury. Syraxis moved like light through shadow. Her blade humming, Ethan covered her flank. Every shot he fired striking true. When it was over, the chamber burned. Data cores exploding. The Ashvale insignia melting into ash. Ethan slumped against the console, breathless. That's it, he said. It's over, Syraxis looked at him, her expression unreadable. No, she said softly. It begins now. He frowned. What do you mean? She stepped closer, taking his hand. For the first time, the galaxy will see truth without war. Fear without rulers. He smiled faintly. You really think they'll learn? She looked at him, eyes glowing like starlight. If they do not, then we'll teach them again outside. The fortress crumbled, light consuming its heart, and in that storm of fire and gravity, Ethan and Syraxis stood side by side, the weight of every battle behind them, the promise of something greater ahead. As they escaped into the cold void, Ethan turned to her. You know, he said quietly, if we ever stop running, I might finally ask you something. She raised an eyebrow. What could possibly be left to ask? He smiled. If peace ever truly means love. For the first time, she didn't answer. Instead, she leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Then perhaps we should find out. The cruiser drifted away. Two souls bound by something more powerful than any weapon or empire. A bond forged in war, tempered in truth and crowned by the stars themselves. And across 1,000 worlds the legend grew. Of a human and an alien general who refused to let the galaxy destroy itself. Of a love that turned enemies into allies. And of two names whispered whenever peace felt impossible. Ethan and Syraxis, the ones who loved so the stars could live.